Robyn Flans, drummer interviews.
Hi, this is Robyn Flans with Robyn Flans Drummer Interviews, and this interview is brought to you by ePad Practice Pads, the only practice pad with Enduraflex playing surface, and Robyn Flans Media, where you can get a brand new bio written by me. So, before we start, I just want to give a shout out to a great friend and supporter by the name of Dan Hugart, and also to all my wonderful Facebook friends. Thanks for all your love and also support, and keep the requests coming. I'm getting around to all of it. So thank you so much. And now I'll bring you to the really good part of today. We have in the studio, like, this amazing guy by the name of Vince Wilburn Jr. And, well, where to start? He is Miles Davis' nephew. He played with and recorded with Miles in the mid to late 80s. He now carries on and honors his uncle with the Miles Electric Band. He has a whole history besides Miles, but I mean, that's like, I can't even wrap my head around playing with Miles Davis. So I'm sorry, but Vince, I mean, I gotta start there because I can't wrap my head around being on stage with Miles Davis.
We how you doing, Robyn? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
It's we call it Miles Davis University. My Uncle Miles is double Gemini, so you have 4 people coming at you at once, and an innovator, and he always had in his mind what he wanted his drummers to play, of course, but he'd let you have your own identity, but in his mind he had it all worked out. You just had to be ready for anything, at any given moment.
When you looked over and saw this man, this master, this genius, this musician, this poet of the instrument, I mean, what?
No, So What is the record, is the song. So what?
I mean,
no, let's go back. That's a great question. See, Robyn, let's go back to the beginning, and I'll try to, move around and give you an idea. My uncle, Miles Davis, but as a kid, you're too young to put it all together, so I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and he would come to Chicago and perform, and my mom and dad would sit in the audience, but I would always stand in the wings, and as a kid, if you picture this, I could just watch him with the light on him, playing with the muted trumpet. I can envision it now. And I was mesmerized. Like he was like a superhero.
well, yeah.
And Tony Williams had a story that he used to share with Wallace Roney, the great trumpeter, great Tony Williams.
So when you first started seeing Miles, was Tony with him?
I was gravitated to the drums, even though I could hear and see my uncle, but it was always the drums.
Yeah. And how old were you?
5.
Okay.
4 or 5.
Okay.
It was just the motion, the movement of I didn't even know the impact of Tony Williams, but I was just like a kid,
Sure.
It was like my attention span was like Tony, Miles, Uncle Miles, Tony, and the rest of the quintet. And I made up my mind, just standing on backstage at the Auditorium Theater in the wings. That's what I wanted to do. And Tony told Wallace he knew it. because I used to stare. I didn't even talk to Tony as a kid. I would just stare at him like this, and then I was a little drummer boy in kindergarten, and every time Uncle Miles would come to town, after Tony and Jack and Al, I would still that effect. It would still have the effect on me, And so we had a band. Just to fast forward, we had a band in high school called AL7, and we would record in my parents' home in the basement, and Uncle Miles would call and say, Dorothy, let me hear the band. That was my mom's name. And so he would critique us. She would take the phone downstairs.
Oh my God!
And dig this, and put the phone down, and he would listen like hours on end, and then my mom would pass the phone to each of the guys, and critique us in a positive way to better the band. This is during our talent shows and whatever gigs we had in high school. And so, one day he called and listened to the band, and he said, "You guys want to make a record?" And that was Man with the Horn. So he flew us to New York. Yeah, that was
How old were
1980.
you?
I was. With Miles, I was young, teenager. But it happens too fast to be afraid. That's the thing that I wanted to share. And so we flew us to New York, and Dr. George Butler, and the rest is history, Man with the Horn. And so to play with them, we rehearsed it in West 77th at his house.
So what did you do on that record?
We did Shout, we did Man with the Horn, the title track, but we did like 14 songs. But 2 made the record, But this was the record when he came out of retirement. It was 79, 80. And then he did We Want Miles, and he went on tour, But he didn't take the band, he didn't take our guys.
Well, you were kids.
Yeah. But it was a great learning experience.
Oh, my God.
We met T.O. Macero, the great producer. We worked with T.O., Stan Tonko, God rest his soul, and Dr. George Butler. Yeah. And a lot of people think that I was instrumental in bringing Uncle Miles back out of retirement, but I don't want to take that credit, and I want to go on record as saying that when he was ready, he made the decision to play again, and that was that time, that time period.
Wow.
So I hope I made it real quick to like.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, that's just I don't think I really knew that.
Yeah.
And so how wow.
So then, not to cut you off, but then 1984 is when I joined the band. 85.
Right, I knew that,
yeah.
but I didn't. I don't think I realized the the
early
piece.
Robyn, it was you say, how would you prepare? You can't prepare. He hears things in a musician, and then he brings it out of you, and you just give your heart. I know it sounds syrupy, but it's the way it was, and it's the way it is, and he had this knack for hearing things and hearing certain things in musicians from Train and from from everyone on up.
I know
and Jimmy Cobb and Philly Joe and.
So who were some of the drummers that you got to see work with him through?
I saw Tony. I saw Jack. I sat in on Jack's drums. He had a drum. I remember the drum kit is Hollywood President. The kit. I remember the kit. I used to have in my home in Chicago, in my room, I would have all these posters of Al and Dugu, and it was a Peisty catalog.
Oh yeah.
And I would cut the catalog up. And so I saw Al, Tony, Jack, and I used to go to Frank's drum shop in downtown Chicago with my friends. It was Frank's, and it was Drums Limited. Mr. Bill Crowden and Marty and Murray LaShawn back in the day. Yeah. And we would stare at the drums. Dig this, Robyn. We would go, and this elevator would open up on Wabash downtown, and you would just nothing but drums. Yeah. And my boys and I, we would just go down and just stare, and they would just let us hang out, and we would just look at the drums. I mean, it was a different time. And then they had Rose Records down on the first floor, down the street. So we'd go down there, and we would all chip in and buy one album back in the day. We'd go home, read the album cover, critique it. It's different from fast forward now with the computers and everybody's just like,
or it's,
this was
buy
like
a track off of.
No. We would study. We would have listening discussions.
The world, it's so different.
Yeah. And then when anybody came to town, we would go.
Yeah.
It was with the drum community in Chicago. All my boys. It was a brotherhood.
Yeah.
It wasn't competitive. If one guy got a gig, and we were all kids, and we were like high-fiving each other. We tried to get backstage to see Billy Cobham or Jack or whatever. It was beautiful, man.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful
it was
times.
a real camaraderie.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It was different. It was different. So what was your first pro gig?
My first pro gig was probably, let's see, I worked with Ramsey, but these were all like records. And then there was a guy that's still in Chicago, beautiful, well-known arranger. His name is Tom Washington. And we call him Tom Tom.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, the city was a jingle. It was jingles. Commercials were big back then. So all the cats who could play or had great, halfway great eyes, when I say eyes, meaning you could read, you would get called for jingles. So, and we had a band that was produced by Tom Tom, and we were going to sign with Atlantic. So it's like you always had something going. If you didn't have a jingle, you had a gig at night. You had shows. I mean, variety shows, and the drummers in Chicago never wanted to feel categorized. We would play polkas. We would play, some brothers playing polka. I mean, we would play anywhere at any given moment.
Right. Blues,
funk, jazz, and you had to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Because you had the AACM. I hope I'm not jumping around.
No.
The AACM was the Advancement for Association of Creative Musicians, and that was where Louis Satterfield, who went on to play with Earth, Wind & Fire, and Hipmo, Don Myrick, and Pete Cozy, God rest his soul. These guys, all this was going on.
Yeah.
Oscar Brown Jr., and the Staples Singers. Staples Singers had a studio on 103rd Street. So you had all this music and all this, going on in Chicago when we were coming up, the emotions and when Ramsey, you had Lucky Cordell, who was a big DJ, Daddy O'Daly, big DJs, and all these guys were like helping young musicians.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were into new music and spinning new.
And I gotta say that radio wasn't segregated.
I know.
Larry Lujak, WLS. I mean, all these radio stations played all music.
Yeah.
You'd have Motown. You'd have pop. You'd have you'd have Rare Earth. You'd have
I remember
Styx. Styx was from Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so we were into everything. My boy, brothers on the South Side, little kids, we listened to all the music.
So when did you? I'm sure I'm skipping a big chunk of time, but when did you come out here?
I came out in I would come out in the summer, and I thought it was cool that I had a cousin lived in Inglewood. I said, man, you mean to tell me you can get a bike on Christmas and ride it the same day? That was my thing because in Chicago, in the Midwest, you'd have to wait. And that was horrible for a kid to look at a bike for 3 months and wait till the snow,
I
snow
never
melts.
thought about that.
It was, I still remember that. But I told my cousin, I said, when I get some money or when I get older, I'm moving to LA. And, and so I came out in 1988. I moved out here.
Okay, so that was during...
Yeah. This was after
Man
with the Horn, after two.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was back and forth. No, I'm sorry. 85.
Oh,
84,
so,
85. Stayed
okay,
with Freddie.
during, while you were playing with your
uncle. I stayed
uncle.
with Freddie White.
Okay.
The great Freddie White from Earth, Wind & Fire.
Okay.
Lived
All
with
right.
him.
Okay.
And Freddie was at my gig. My first gig with Uncle Miles was the Long Beach Jazz Festival.
Oh, my.
And Freddie came and Dave Wecker was there, Jack DeJohnette, a bunch of drummers on the side.
Oh my God! What was that?
Robyn, you never had time to be nervous, because the focus was on trying to make Uncle Miles happy, and all the guys wanted to see who was playing with Miles now, playing with Uncle Miles, but everybody was supportive. Jack, Dave, all those guys.
Now that's interesting because of course there was some controversy
with me.
No, with the electric.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Another thing that Uncle Miles, I watched, that I learned that you can't worry about what people don't like. You have to have some freedom in your soul to do what you want to do.
That's right.
And he never
have the
looked
guts
back.
to go out of the box.
Yeah, and that's why this man changed the course of music 4 times, 5 times. I say more than 3, 4 times, 5, 6 times. And being around him, and as I lived with him in Malibu, I could see why. Because this was a man who was the last to go to sleep at night, the first to wake up in the morning. And I've never, and I keep saying this, I've never seen somebody change clothes 4 or 5 times a day. Never.
What was that about?
Just because he would get bored. And you'd look up and he'd have another set of clothes on. I mean,
really?
That's how his mind worked. And anything he set out to do, he was a perfectionist. He could make the best bouillabaisse, the best fried fish, the best pasta. His art was, his art.
Yeah, that's
was
interesting
shown
because
all
I
over the world.
wanted you to tell me a little bit about the guy, about
He
the
had
uncle,
he had
and
a
not
little-
just the
yeah,
musician.
No, he had a little book, and we're still looking for this little recipe book, and we can't find it. And he would have these recipes, and he would send us to the store. Aaron, his son, and I lived with him in Malibu, and get these ingredients. But he would never eat. And I guess that's why he stayed so small. He would nibble.
He would eat
nibble.
while he cooked.
Yeah,
because that's
and
what
nibble.
cooks do.
Yeah, and he was into the sports and boxing and swimming. We would go to Pepperdine and university and swim every day. But
So he got real healthy at the end.
Yeah. But he knew his body and his mind worked in a different way. I don't want to say a savant, but his mind worked a genius. I've been blessed to be around people who have this certain thing, and all I did was just watch. I just observed. I saw Jay-Z, not to switch subjects, but I saw Jay-Z in the studio. He never wrote anything down. And that's amazing to me. And this is from engineers telling me this too. I've worked with Nas, and I'm flipping and going to hip hop
it's okay.
because it. What's up? Should we keep on?
That's okay.
Okay.
No,
You
go
can
ahead.
edit? Keep on.
Go, just go.
I went with I saw we did a thing called The Evolution of the Groove, a record, and I watched Nas. Those guys are poets, He just said, play the track, rewind the track, play the track, and he would write. He wrote his rap for this record we did with Santana, and I just say that to say that certain minds think a certain way, and he's the son of Oludara, who's a great trumpeter, and Quincy Jones. Being around Quincy, I met Prince. I didn't know Prince, but he went to high school with my cousins in Minneapolis. Another one.
Yeah.
All genius.
Yeah, and they all probably have a certain thing in common.
Yes.
I get it.
I watched Prince play for 3 hours one night in Austin at South by Southwest. So when I think about Uncle Miles, this is Robyn. You just had to be ready.
Yeah.
For anything.
What do you? That's an interesting thing. What do you think in your training, or how you learned, made you ready?
Because I listened to everything growing up. So you can't be, he used to say, start off with Mama, Daddy, Mama, Dad. We talked about rudiments and double stroke rope. Back in the day, we talked about this too, Robyn. They had record promotion guys. So it was Columbia Records back then. And so there was a guy named Granville White. It's funny I can remember all of this. We called him Granny. And he would call Granny and have Mr. White bring certain records he wanted me to listen to. I'm a kid. So
Miles would call?
Yeah, he'd call the record label. He'd call Granny. and Granny would he brought me the Immortal Otis Redding, the Band of Gypsies. He loved Buddy Miles. He loved Al Jackson. And he brought all Sly. He loved In Time. He loved that whole Sly catalog. There's a Riot Going On, and Andy Newmark, and
so he took care of your musical mentorship.
Yeah,
he
and
mentored you
yes,
with music.
Yes,
wow.
And my mom loved music. I mean, my dad listened to the classical, but my mom played a little piano. She taught school, and it was music. They would have parties, and as a kid laying in my bunk bed, I would hear this music coming from in the basement. And I would go down the next day and play these records,
right? And
the records that Uncle Miles sent right through Mr. White. Wow. And it was the beauty of that was, to answer your question, I wasn't locked into anything,
right?
Because it was so much music,
right? And
so much music to ingest,
right? And so would you play along with the
Oh,
music?
hell
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah. You can say anything you want.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there's a guy named Michael Smith, a kid who played piano, and we would play just drums and piano from my parents' parties. I mean, you got to think, if you can picture this, it was like I was a sponge. I'm still a sponge.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get locked into anything.
Right. Yeah.
I still love Journey with Steve Smith.
Oh,
the old Journey. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Not to take anything from Dean and
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I saw Journey at U of in Champaign at the University of Illinois, and I was like, man, Steve had a red set of sonars. I remember that. I'm telling my age or something. And my man had a red grand piano, and it was killing, man. And I saw the Police, and I saw Genesis, I saw Phil Collins, I saw Yes, I saw I was a Beatles fan. My mom bought me a Nehru jacket, and I had Beatle boots. So you picture little black.
I met Paul McCartney in a Nehru jacket.
See?
When I was, I was.
Did you
little.
know Tony was a Beatles fan?
No.
Tony was trying to get the Beatles, Uncle Miles, to open up for the Beatles.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that I tell Ringo that now, and he's like, really? He can't believe that Tony Williams was a fan of the Beatles. Yeah. And so it's Miles loved Jimi Hendrix. He went to Jimmy's funeral, and so you don't get locked in. You hear here's a man who had his full scholarship to Juilliard, right?
Yeah.
But his schooling was at Birdland, and that's where with Charlie Parker and Max Roach. He said Max played so fast he used to make his lip bleed, I mean, things like that. How do you forget that? Philly Joe would love Tony, so Philly Joe would come by when the quintet, when Tony was with, when they were playing, getting arrangements together, and Philly Joe would come by at the house and sit with Uncle Miles and check out the new, look at my new quintet, It's things like that. Max, I call him Uncle Max to the day he passed away. I used to go. He was in a assisted living in Coney Island, and I would go out and see him. But that's the kind of person that I am, and that's the kind of love that I had. And you might want to edit it. I don't know, but I mean, I want people to know. But that's the kind of love I have for the drummers and musicians before us. And now they're gone. I still think about them, and I play their records, and I have their posters. And
you had an intimate relationship with these people.
Incredible. I call them Uncle. Yeah. Elvin.
Well, they were part of your personal life. Yeah, I mean, what a journey you've had, and that's why I, started this the way I started it.
Robyn,
because
we met in the '80s, and I wanted to always talk to you about music, and then see, here we are.
Boy, it took a long freaking time.
But no, we're here. And it's like, what I try to do, I try to share with the young, the kids coming up now. Yeah,
because you want to keep all of it alive.
Got to keep the lineage.
And that's the thing, I'm all about that too. Is wanting to keep all that.
So am I. Every day is a kid named Kojo Roney That's Wallace Roney's nephew, and Antoine Roney, who plays with our band, is his son. And I mean, he's scary. And he's not like, oh, you play drums, you're nice for a kid. He channels Tony. You know, he really channels Tony, and he'll be at NAMM. Actually, he's playing with Wallace during the NAMM weekend, and Lenny White works with him. I mean, he's a humble kid, and he's frightening. You know, he's frightening. I want you to meet him. He's
sure.
You know, Colleen, Tony's wife, you know, loves him. You know.
So, I mean, speaking about keeping the music alive, so the band that you're doing currently, tell us about.
It's called the Miles Electric Band. In 2009, 2010, Karen Sundell, our publicist, gave me a call and said, "Why don't you? You know, there's a festival in Silver Lake. It's called Sunset Junction. Why don't you put a band together and maybe do a Bitches Brew revisited or some type of homage? Can you say homage?
Yeah,
homage to Miles.
It's a good word.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. She said, I said I should call some friends and see if they're interested. And everybody I called Daryl Jones first, Bobby Irving, because you know I try to think of the guys who we played together with Miles. Uncle Miles, and then I called Wallace Roney, his brother Antoine, and Munyungo, and Blackbird McKnight, and Darren Johnson, and then so that was, I think it was Miles Bitches Brew revisited, and then that's how the Miles Electric Band was born. And with the Miles Electric Band, the fun thing about this is we're not trying to replace to be Jack or Tony or Herbie or Ronald.
Right.
This is our interpretation of that music and those periods, the electric periods, and we feature a different trumpeter. We've had the blessing and honor to play with Nick Payton, Wallace Roney, Christian Scott, Sean Jones, Etienne Charles.
I'm sure they all want to.
Oh yeah, and I just called Terrence Blanchard to do some things.
Oh, wow.
If Terrence is available, he's so super busy.
Man,
but that's
great.
the fun of their approach to the music is fun to hear too.
Sure.
You know, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah. So this is something that you're doing ongoing.
Oh yeah, we have an agent and we have a manager and we're going.
And you have
touring in
dates.
February. Oh yeah, we're going to be at the Hollywood Bowl and Playboy Jazz. And
that's what I'm
just
getting.
go to milesdavis.com. I mean milesdavis.com. edit. Just go to mileselectricband.com and click on tours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so you had something to do with this film. This film.
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I read. I did my homework a little bit, and it was a big deal. Yeah, it was a very, very big deal.
We
this film.
You know, it's called Miles Ahead. We were received. My family, Aaron, Miles was my Uncle Miles' youngest son. Cheryl, Uncle Miles' daughter, my cousins, we were receiving the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award at the Waldorf in New York, 2005, 2006. So backstage, when you receive an award, as you know, you go to the press corps, and so one of the questions one of the guys asked was, "Who do you see playing your uncle if you were to do a movie or biopic?"
Oh.
I said Don Cheadle. I didn't know Don Cheadle. I've never met Don Cheadle at the time.
How funny! That's
it just
interesting.
came to me because Don played this part in a movie called The Devil in a Blue Dress. He played a guy named Mouse. That was his character, and Mouse reminded me of Uncle Miles.
Wow.
You know that aggressive, arrogant, cool thing. You know. And so when the family flew back, it went all over the wire. And so when we flew back, his people got in touch with our people, and that was the beginning of Miles Ahead.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very cool. I love that story.
And then we had to go to we couldn't get the budget, so Don set up a GoFundMe page and Indiegogo campaign, and we finally made a deal with Sony Pictures Classics, and that's who picked up the film, which was great because Sony Music, Sony Pictures Classics, and the initial idea was to have Antoine Fuqua to direct, who did Training Day and The Equalizer, and Herbie to score, and then Don to star as Uncle Miles. But so Herbie was super busy as he is. Antoine was starting Equalizer, the first Equalizer, and Don said, "Well, man, I should direct. I should direct." He said, "Because I know what I know the vision I want." And the family, we were behind him, because we believe I think Don did an incredible job. My only thing was, Don, you sure you want to take this on?
Yeah, that's
both
big.
sides
Yeah,
of the camera,
right. But lots of people do it.
Yeah. Oh, we had some sit downs with Don, and Don's like, "Yeah, I want to do it." And he received the family's blessing, and here we are. And then Robert Glasper, Robert had never scored a movie. And this is Don's directorial debut, and he called me one night. Don did, and said, what do you think about Robert scoring a movie? He said, because I need somebody that's steeped in jazz and hip hop and somebody who's quick. And I said, hey man, Robert's a bad cat, and I called flack for the movie. I called flack for Don. I called flack for Robert Glasper. But it's like, you can't worry about that when you're on the ledge. You got to.
It's kind of that outside the box
thing
again. Taking risks
you gotta
and
go
jump
for
off
it.
the ledge.
You got to do it, and we did it.
I hear you.
And it won a Grammy. I wish I was praying Don would get some type of Oscar nod or Oscar nomination, but we'll take the Grammy.
Yeah.
You
did
some
good.
people dig it. Some people didn't dig it. But it's just like his music.
Yeah. Any art.
You know what I mean? My parents' friends used to fight about the electric period of Uncle Miles as opposed to the acoustic period.
It was very controversial.
And I could hear the arguments in the basement,
It was very controversial.
From the basement. Yeah.
But again, if you don't take chances,
you don't know.
You
never
stagnate.
And God forbid we sit and be complacent.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's not in our universe.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
so we have a documentary coming out. We're working that out now. Yeah, with a guy named Stanley Nelson who just did it with this documentary will be with American Masters. And so I'll come back and maybe we get Stanley so you can talk to Stanley.
Nice. So how far into it are you?
We just started. He just started interviewing certain people to talk to. But we wanted on a premise that you wouldn't. What artist would you not expect to love Miles, but he dug Miles? You know what I mean? Like I'm reaching out to Dave Grohl, and I'm calling different people that are outside of the jazz.
Just musicians.
Just musicians, artists, painters.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking
actors.
Yeah. That would be a better. Yeah.
Yeah, just.
I mean,
because Robyn, you'd be surprised. I mean, you might not be surprised, but so many people have been touched by Miles Davis, and it amazes me to this day, and that's what we want to bring, to this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of people are buzzing around my brain. Okay, all right, it's the journalist in me. All right, very cool, very cool.
You figure. Uncle Miles has been gone since '91, September 28th. And we have a Mount Blanc pen. We have a line of kind of blue whiskey. We're doing it's just, the reason I say this is not a commercial. It's just that one man can touch so many people in so many ways to this day, and it's amazing to me. It's a beautiful thing.
Jeff Porcaro named one of his sons.
Yeah. I just saw Luke the other day, Steve Luke, And he was saying, I went to, Uncle Mouse played on one of Toto's records.
Yes, I know.
And I went to the house when they were doing it. I remember it.
Yes.
And Luke said he remembers when they did the track. And right after that, Uncle Miles wanted Steve to quit Toto and join Toto. I said, Luke, I know you couldn't do that, right? He said, no, I couldn't do that. But your uncle asked me.
Oh, man.
Quit Toto.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Come play with me.
Oh, man. And so what does it mean that you and the kids handle his
estate?
Estate.
It's called Miles Davis Properties. It's Aaron Davis, Cheryl Davis, and myself. And any likeness, we've set up this entity called Miles Davis Properties. So that's what we do, and we do it. We try to do it with integrity and we do it gracefully. We've controlled the license. We've had like rap groups that wanted to sample some Uncle Miles music, but they sent us these demos, and they were, one group that will remain nameless. They sent us a track, and the first thing out of their mouths were bitches and hoes.
Oh,
and
no.
We were like, no. So, we try to respectfully honor the legacy.
Of course.
And I hope we're doing a great job.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sure your hearts will dictate the right thing.
And it's been doing it. Uncle Mouse comes to me in dreams. I don't want to get again.
That's okay.
But
I'm right there with you, Vince.
I think that and people tell me that they were doing it. That he would be happy. Because
when they come to you in dreams, that means they're coming.
Yeah, and that means their soul is at rest. That's what someone told me.
Yes.
But it's been pleasant dreams, and it's been like I just see smiles a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me feel good. That warms my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's people have to figure out. And I want to say this: if it was your uncle, what would you do? Mm-hmm. A lot of people might think that I'm over the top with Uncle Miles, but I mean, it's an honor.
And
no one's twisting my arm.
And a responsibility.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
definitely.
a responsibility
Sure.
to make sure that you do a good job and that you honor it appropriately.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
And hopefully we can be role models for other estates and other people who want to honor their loved ones, Because we need it. We need to keep their legacy. All these legacies, we need to keep them, keep them in the forefront.
That's right.
Because you can never stop learning. If you want to learn, if you have that thirst for knowledge, as I do, as you do, as the listeners do, then and there's so much music in vaults that long after we're gone, it'll be music. We get. I remember T.O. was mad because we were doing the bootleg series of the quintet, and they were showing the behind the scenes uncut versions of them putting music together. I think in one track Tony was playing tempo blocks, trying out tempo blocks, and T.O. was madder than a bear because he didn't think that you should have the
things that didn't
recipe.
work.
Yeah. Well, he didn't want the spices let out of the kitchen.
Okay.
But again, I think that's the beauty of seeing how all this music, listening.
Yeah.
And trying to see how this music was formed.
Yeah.
And that was our purpose, not to open up the
No, that's what documentaries do too, and it's a glorious thing to be able to see how it all the puzzle pieces come together.
That interests me. Sure, it interests.
The making of.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's golden.
Yeah. Because everybody, all fans weren't.
And besides, even when you give the recipe, those other people who go in to use that recipe are never going to come out with the same. Yeah, that's right. It ain't the same DNA.
Not the same flavor.
Forget it. So, what's
he
worried about?
I think we're on the right track.
Yeah. So, what else? What else do you got going on, Vince?
I have a production company called Miles Like Inc., and we're looking for talent, and
You're gonna get barraged here.
No, because I was talking to Ray Parker Jr. the other day, and I took some money that I had, a lot of money that I had. I mean, and I put it in. I had 7 groups that I thought I could get 7 record deals for. And I didn't get a deal for, not one group. But he said, Vince, you should have taken one group, one artist, and not put that much money into it, and just put maybe a third of that in, and see where it would have gone. But see, that's the passion of music.
Yeah.
And
you got excited about a bunch of stuff. But he's probably it was a studio called Rumbo, Captain and Tennille.
And we would record there. They wanted me to buy the studio, but at the time I felt like I was onto something, and it was great. I had a Persian violinist. I had Phil Upchurch. I had Ivan Neville. I had all these artists, and I was So it was pretty heavy.
And
artists.
You couldn't
get a deal. Couldn't buy a deal. Yeah.
I mean, were not. Some of these people were not unknowns.
Yeah. But at the time, I couldn't. But But with the music, we still have it. And it's still great music, and I stand by it. And I got to say this: all the guys who were calling to be quote unquote sidemen, like Freddie Washington, Wah Wah Watson, all these guys were coming over and playing on these tracks for the love, and a little bit of money, because I couldn't pay them scale, of course not. Got it. But it was a fun time to be creative, and that was my Berry Gordy moment.
So you still have the
we still own the masters, and we still own the music, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I can think of a lot of different ways of losing money or blowing money
that wouldn't have been as fun. Or magical.
So,
I got it.
Yeah, that's where my head is.
What else is going on?
I just want to keep. I want to keep sharing. I want to help musicians. I want to help young drummers like Al Foster did for me, and like Tony did for me, like Jack did for me, and I gotta say this. And drummers have to work at. Don't look for free things, free endorsements. Back in the day, we had to work our way up to get an endorsement. It was first started with the introduction. And then you get a gig, and then you get a more prestigious gig. Right. But you keep you keep the dialogue going with these companies, because it means a lot. And it works both ways. Yeah. So that's what I share with the young cats coming up. Yeah. If don't look for free things right out of the right out of the gate. Have a relationship. With the companies.
And really care about the company.
And don't jump around, Don't look for free sticks here and free cymbals there. I've been with Yamaha since 1984. I've been with Zildjian since 1984. I've been with Vic Firth since Joe Testa could tell you, maybe 10 years. But those these God bless Hagi, Mr. Hagiwara, Hagi and Mr. Remo Bailey. I mean, it's like and Armin and I'm just that's what I want to share with the young drummers and young musicians to build a rapport and keep that open mind of music and listen to all types of music and don't segregate. Uncle Mouse said, I don't give a shit if a guy was green as long as he could play his ass off. Music is universal, and music should be shared and experienced by all, and I try to keep an open mind, and that's where my head is, to keep open mind and be fearless with the music, be fearless and don't be afraid of what somebody might think. Uncle Miles hated to read a review, good or bad, after a concert, because one concert we played in Europe, and I was reading how great the show was. He said he snatched and tore it up.
Well, I don't think,
because he didn't want that to get in our heads.
Honestly, I don't think reviews should exist. But that's always been my point of view, because the bottom line is there are people in the audience who loved it, and there are people in the audience who didn't. And what does one joker have? Who the hell is he?
And just think if the innovators were hung up on what somebody thought.
Yeah, it's
then you wouldn't be an innovator.
I don't believe in reviews.
Yeah.
And
that's not to dog any critics, but it's just I've learned to you have to go, Robyn, on your instinct. What your heart tells you. And if a lot of people would on instinct and what their heart tells them, be a better place. The world would be a better place.
Yeah. But
that's me.
Well, I think we're in sync, and I think I'm so happy that you came here today.
Glad to be here.
And I just
and I bugged Robyn. She didn't come after me. I was like, Robyn, come on, I don't want to talk.
No, man, I am the minute.
Robyn, come on, man, call me.
The minute Vince said, "Hey," I said, "Whoa, yeah," and
But thank you for having it, Robyn. This lady, has been advocate for music, for drummers, for the love of the music, and you've always tried to keep us, what's the word I'm looking for? Try to keep us.
Yeah, I know, I'm a sucker.
No, motivated and inspired.
Well,
and you've done
Vince.
that, and it's a blessing to be here sitting with you.
Thanks. Well,
and you didn't pay me to say that. It's love. It's love.
I do love music. It's my soul,
because
I
when
love those drummers.
When I met you through Freddie, I was like, maybe one day she can take my photo, or maybe one day I can get an interview. and that's another thing. I used to read your name in Modern Drummers, and maybe I could. Get an interview with Robyn one day.
I'm always blown away when I hear that people actually look at the name. Looked at the name at the top of the thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it always blew me away.
It works. It's both ways.
Well,
keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Love
it's a privilege.
Thank you. It's a
I have
privilege.
been honored to. I mean, really, it's an honor. So,
we got to interview you because
Okay.
all the people you've interviewed.
Okay.
She was talking about. Vinny was here. Like Vinny was here. Vinny. The Vinny Caluta, and Vinny's the same way, right? Vinny's all chill and he's low key But I mean, that guy has played so much music. Not to get off track, and he's just as humble and shy.
Oh,
right?
He's goofy, humble,
right?
silly.
Right. Love you, Vinny. Man, it's amazing. We have the same drum tech.
But you played with Miles Davis.
Yeah, but. Vinny played with Frank Zappa. Vinny's playing with Herbie. I mean, and not just Vinny. It's so many drummers.
Yeah, and you know what? And I have been so privileged to sit with people that blow my mind. Just blow my mind.
We're like sponges, right?
I love I just love hearing about it.
Steve Gadd. I mean, I could go on.
I know.
Rick Marotta. And all those guys.
I love
Purdy.
It's just
Bernard Purdy.
Yeah. So well.
Yeah. We'll do it again.
Yeah, okay. and thank everybody for tuning in. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff.
For the band, Miles Electric Band, it's mileselectricband.com. For anything Miles Davis, it's milesdavis.com. I'm Neff of Miles on Twitter. I'm Neff of Miles on where else? On Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
Facebook is Vince Wilburn Jr.
So stay tuned. Thank you, everybody. And Vince, thank you.